Welcome to the Growler, a Who Dey podcast hosted by Paul Dehner and other bald friends like Mo Egger, Dave Niinemets, home of all your Bengals breaks, takes. Welcome to the Growler.
All right, welcome into the latest edition of the Growler. Balds Don't Lie. Paul Dehner Jr., Dave Niinemets of The Athletic with you. What's up, Dave? Good to be back with you.
Yeah, I feel like we should have had the reunited music, borrowed the J music. It's been a while since I've been on here, so
it's true. It has. You know, we've been on weird schedules. Although you were down at the live show that we had last week.
I was shoveling down tots over at the bar. It was outstanding.
Tots with pots. I really thought it was going to catch on more. I'm not going to lie.
It was a nice night for it. They had all the doors open. It was beautiful weather. That turned out really great.
Yeah, it was fun. It was a great time. Thanks again to everybody that came down. We hope to be doing more of that stuff into the future as we get going. But you know, we're back into schedule a little bit, feeling like ourselves again. Joe Burrow's talking. Mo's back on the show today. We are right back in the lane that we need to be in now, which is very exciting.
Hitting on all cylinders again.
We are. I do want to let everybody know there's kind of a new cadence as we get into more of the dead period here in the off season. We're going to have 2 shows a week. Who Dey Light's still going to be here with Mark every week. But it'll be some combination of me, Dave, Mo, and Jay on this first episode every week. It's between vacations and not a whole lot happening. We're going to kind of condense it a little bit, more power packed on your early shows. But you never know who you're going to get, which I like the excitement that brings, Dave.
Yeah, the mystery. It could be anyone. You know, it could be who was it? We were going to try to get Michael Winslow from Police Academy. It could be him.
Welcome to the Growler on Michael Winslow.
Gotta happen.
If only.
Someday.
If only. One day. We got a lot to get to. Joe Burrow spoke, as I mentioned. And so we're going to kind of, before Mo comes in, Dave and I are going to kind of talk through that. I'm going to bring you about 9 minutes of what he did about 2025 yesterday, just mostly focusing on the rehab, his reaction to this rehab, where he feels like he's at. He practiced with his team for the first time. He's been throwing for about a month. He's cleared to do everything basically except contact, which he expects to happen within a month. But every time Burrow talks, I feel like we say, man, that was something, huh? Like that, because you want it to be something. It kind of feels like it needs to be something because it's him every time. I think yesterday was something. I wrote about this. I wrote a column about what he said, why I thought it was really important. Specifically, we know what the biggest deal is with his career going forward. He's got to find ways to stay healthy. And I think the way you heard him talk about the rehab, what he's kind of put himself through and gone through mentally, more so than physically, maybe with this, was notable. And then him talking about what his reaction is to this, about how he can have 2023 not happen again, and the kind of self-assessment that created, I think was massive, and I think is critical for Burrow going forward. And I want to play you first, and before we dive into it, here's 9 minutes of Burrow. Listen to those specifically, talking about where he's at and some of the issues he's having. It's important to know as he works through it. But listen to him talk about the self-reflective nature that this time has created for him and how he's trying to evolve, always trying to get better. And there's some great stuff in there about that, but how he's trying to go forward. So without further ado, here's 9 minutes from Tuesday's news conference with Joe Burrow.
What's been the biggest challenge or challenges with this injury and recovering from it?
The uncertainty. Whenever you have an injury to your throwing side, you're never quite sure how it's going to turn out at the end. But I'm in a good spot. I'm happy with where I'm at, and I'm going to continue to get better.
How much muscle mass have you put on? I mean, how much weight you've been not only rehabbing, you've been working out. How much bigger are your muscle mass?
Yeah, we're bigger, definitely bigger. We'll see where I'm at the end of the off season. I feel good about where my body is at right now. I'm going to continue to get stronger and bigger throughout the off season, and just kind of play it by ear depending on how I feel. Like I said, I'm in a good spot right now. I'm really strong, bigger than I was. We're going to continue to eat right, lift, and go through my routine and see where I'm at.
So mechanically, you look pretty good. Is that how would you describe the mechanics right now?
Yeah, it's a work in progress. We've been throwing for about a month, so just like any off season, you're working through some rust, a little more this year than in years past. But I'm still working through everything: footwork, arm path, the little intricacies of the throwing motion. That's something that I'm working through every day, and I'm going to continue to hone and improve at.
When did you start throwing, Joe, and what was the build-up to that like?
Yeah, it was about a month ago. That would have been the beginning of April, so somewhere around there. It was, this was a difficult injury. It's been a tough several months, but physically, it's not the worst injury that I've had. I've been through much tougher things physically, and so that's been a positive. I've been able to really lift and continue my off-season program kind of the way that it always has been. By the time that came around, I was pretty much able to lift and do everything that I needed to in the weight room and conditioning-wise. So, physically and conditioning-wise, I feel really good.
Every quarterback takes hits. Can being bigger and stronger help you when you inevitably take some hits this year?
I don't know. That's what we're going to find out. That's kind of a work in progress of somebody's career. You're always growing and learning, and I'm trying something new this year, so we'll see how I feel when the season rolls around, when camp rolls around, when we're on the field every day. But I don't know the answer to that. We're going to find out.
All of the injuries so far in your career have been ones that you can't control, but you are human. And has it been hard for you at all to not overdo it and try to get in that zone where you feel like you have to get through a training camp fully healthy, you want to get through a season fully healthy? Is that a hard mental battle you find yourself, or are you pretty able to just keep it from what's happened in the past and just move forward?
Yeah, I try to keep my mindset a day at a time. I think that's the best way that you can handle situations like these. This has definitely been one of the most challenging parts of my life for the last several months, but we're getting through it and continuing to improve, mentally and physically every day. So it's definitely a challenge and a process.
An injury like this, what are the stumbling blocks? Is it pain? Is it building your wrist back up? Is it strength? What are you working through right now?
Yeah, it's all the above. There's always going to be some pain when you're coming back from injury. Throughout the rehab process, that's something that you just have to battle through if you want to come back from injuries like these. This isn't a minor injury by any means. So, I've been through it with my knee. I know the pain that is involved in processes like these. I've been through it before, and we're kind of towards the end of this now, but we're going to continue to improve throughout the off season. The wrist has good days and bad days, just like the knee did. We're still pretty early. We still got a ways till the season, so we're going to make sure that we give it the breaks that it needs. We're going to be smart about it, but on the days that I'm feeling good, I'm going to go.
Joe, does it hurt when you throw, or
I'll keep that to myself, but
okay.
Whenever you have an injury, there's going to be some pain in spots.
Joe, a lot of the injuries you've been through have plenty of people that have been through them. You know the template. Has this been more challenging because it's something kind of unique? There aren't a lot of people that have gone through this at your level before, and makes a little bit more of the unknown, a little more unknown.
Yeah,
Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely was kind of flying blind throughout the beginning of that rehab process because, I haven't found any quarterbacks that have had this before. The guys that I have talked to have been, offensive linemen, defensive linemen, linebackers that didn't have to have that wrist mobility and the little intricacies of the wrist movement like I do. But, Nick and Matt have really done a good job of making sure that I get that motion back. And our rehab has been lights out, so I've been excited about that. and I'm excited about where I'm at.
What's your understanding of kind of what the remaining risks are with it? Do you feel like you're comfortable with what those are, or know what those are, or is there points that you're looking forward to feel good about that?
Yeah, I think most of those points are behind us. We're kind of at the end of the 6 to 7 months that this is going to take, and so at this point, it's just about getting ready to play football, and it'll continue to get better. The knee was cleared after 9 months, but I didn't really start to feel normal until about a year out. So I imagine this is about how that's gonna feel. Fortunately, that coincides with the beginning of training camp, start of the season. So, like I said, we'll see where it's at when the time comes. You never know, but right now we're in a good spot.
You talked about this being one of the most challenging times for you. What's been your why through those days where it's probably been Monday and you didn't know if you wanted to get yourself to your workout or your rehab? What's been your driving motivation through this whole process?
Yeah, that part has never really been a problem for me. I've always been able to get up and go to work and make sure that I'm going to be where I need to be to perform my best. That's my why is always just continuing that drive for greatness, continuing that drive every day, trying to improve. I'm addicted to getting better, and that feeling. There's nothing like the feeling of getting better, because that makes the day-to-day really worth it. Once you start to see the results of the work that you're putting in, there's nothing like that, and so that's really what I'm striving for every day.
So when the schedule comes out, people are going to be looking at that first month and how important and quick that is. What do you think some of the keys are to get out of the blocks quickly like you guys did in 21?
Yeah, I need to, first off, try to be out there for training camp, get as many reps as I can with the guys. I'm going to be smart about it. If I need a break, I need a break. The wrist maybe is going to hurt sometimes, and I'm going to be honest with myself about how my body's feeling, maybe a little more cautious than I have been in years past. So that's kind of been something that's been on my mind for the last couple months, and so I'm getting better at that. It's always a challenge to not push yourself in that way, but I'm growing and learning every year, trying to be a pro and trying to figure out how to best be available for my team.
Given how you're wired and how you like to push, what's the hardest part about finding that balance, figuring out when to be able to scale it back and when to push so you can have that ability to grow and kind of get better?
Yeah, I'm growing and learning how to handle my body. I think that's a continued process of learning, when to push through something that you think, maybe might be there, and another day, you might not be feeling great, and, this muscle's a little tight, like, hey, we got to take it easy today. So that's something that I'm continuing to learn. I think that's part of growing as a player and as a pro, and it's a continued process day in and day out.
All right, there is Joe Burrow, 9 minutes of Joe Burrow talking about his wrist injury. I want to start with, just putting yourself into Joe Burrow's shoes, which I know many of you have wanted to do many times. But putting yourself into Joe Burrow's shoes here, your life has been about being wired different. Your life has been about pushing yourself. You have made a career off of doing things that everyone said that you couldn't, that because you're not built like Carson Palmer or Justin Herbert. You're not as fast as Lamar Jackson. Everyone telling you what you don't have, but you have. The fact that you have been wired different has been your differentiator. And here you are having to rewire yourself, unwire yourself to not attack rehab that way, to not view practice that way, to look at yourself and say, I've got to dial it back because me pushing myself, me doing this stuff and trying to be Superman and thinking that I'm immune to setbacks is a big part of what caused last year, whether we're talking about the calf on day 2 where he's wearing the compression sleeve and pushing himself 2+ hours in rather than taking it easy that day, or the setbacks that came after that. That's been something that we've seen throughout his career. And I think him addressing that and showing and understanding, I understand how I have erred. I understand that I have not communicated what I'm feeling well enough with the professionals around me. And that is a huge step for Burrow avoiding some of the issues that have plagued him in his past and specifically nagged him so much of last year.
If you just compare it to the language and kind of the coyness last year when he had the calf and we were in those first few games of the year, and we as talking heads sat here and said, there was kind of a 50-50. You play Burrow is your best chance to win, or you go with your backup and just roll the dice. It's like a 180 from the way he was talking during that stretch, which was very much like kind of, I'm going to be out there, I'm going to play, don't worry about it. And this was very candid and very open to like, no, I have to be honest. I have to just accept the situation I'm in and work around it and not force anything. And that's growth. I mean, that's just maturity as a player. I'm sure it pains him some to have to kind of take that step for the reasons you said. He's not wired that way, but I think he's seeing the bigger picture, that if you're going to have successful seasons, if you're going to have a successful career, you can't just power through these things and they'll just go away and you'll be great,
And the other part of it is, he talks about having this injury that, he's flying blind. He's like, I can't find a quarterback. And we've talked about this. To me, this was has been when he talks about one of the most challenging parts of my life, as his quote there, it's because the uncertainty, like he mentioned, of I can't find anybody that's got this. Okay. I don't know what happens at the end. So all this stuff, he's probably as scared as Twitter docs as you are, Bengal fan, right? Like when Twitter docs out there saying, I don't know, the bone's got to grow back and I don't know if this is going to work. And that's all real fear, because there's no saying that when he gets to camp that it's going to get from the way it is today to 5% better to 5% better to 100%. You hope, you think, you want to believe that, but again, the lack of precedent here is where the fear lives. ACL, man, that's not scary. Look at all the dudes that have come back from ACLs. I know I do XYZ, I end up fine, and I can put my team in the Super Bowl. Check box, right? This, I do XYZ, I still don't know what happens at the end for sure, because I'm talking to linebackers. He's out here talking to linebackers about wrist injuries. Like, that is a totally different animal. And that's where so much of, I think, the fear lives with this. And that's why it is so much the caution that I've kind of tried to use with this from the very beginning, is that because of that lack of precedent, until you go all the way through it, I don't think you can know for sure how it's going to end. And the hope is that it will be fine. The thought is that it will be fine. The progress is good, but you still got to go through steps that are still kind of unknown for a player at this level.
No doubt. Thoughts and prayers to Twitter docs, though, because those throws the last couple days, that really that blew up some narratives that were being worked on out there that trying to scare people. But he even kind of danced around a little bit, how things are going to look, once he has contact. That's the great unknown right there, that, we don't have contact yet. So when he gets contact, does that change anything? He wasn't so sure about his accuracy just yet. Those are the things that are scary, because that's a huge calling card for him, as being an accurate quarterback. So it's got to be scary for him. And it seems like, I don't want to say a wake-up call. He's a smart guy. He's not stupid, but it's a wake-up call about taking care of his body and just getting this right and listening to all the experts. Because a linebacker doesn't have to throw it 50 yards downfield to Jamar Chase. So it's hard to know what that's going to look like in 3, 4, 5, 6 months.
No, and some of the eyes and ears from the practice we were able to watch yesterday, again, light 1 hour. but did all the throws. I mean, he threw deep, he threw short, he threw the 20-yard outs, he overthrew Charlie Jones on a deep ball. He threw off platform against, his momentum back across, flicking the wrist. All of that looked good, looked natural. But yeah, like he said, the accuracy isn't totally there yet. You'd see some balls that would flutter at the end. That's all part of where he's at. It's his second day out throwing with teammates. He's only been throwing for a month. It's going to be so much about where it goes from here. But, he looks – the fact that he's out there doing that at this point in the injury, everything being where you want it to be in terms of the progress of where it's supposed to be, that's a big win. That's the big win here. Everybody seems really comfortable with where it's at, and he's just going to go through this and see if it gets to where he hopes it will be. I like the knee analogy of, I was back by 9 months, but didn't really feel all the way back till a year. And the idea is that this will be the same type of deal. And if that's the case, Bengals fans are thrilled, right? He can go out there and be ready to go week 1 against whoever they're playing against. We'll find that out next week when the schedule comes out on Wednesday. But I just love that. I think the nervousness is that this guy can't continue to think he's invincible. That's kind of been his aura his whole life. From I'll play through a torn MCL in the Super Bowl, I'll play through the everything. I can't be stopped. I will go out there on one leg on Monday Night Football with Aaron Donald chasing me down rather than ship out Jake Browning. And I think that this changes now. You can see that mental change, and that is just really good for his longevity here and understanding that everybody's here trying to get the same thing. Okay. No one's trying to say you're not great or whatever. Like, you've got to be thinking more about how you feel and know that no one's trying to stop you from banking your reps. Okay. Like, it's about the big picture.
Yeah. And you bring up Jake Browning, and you mentioned it in your revised depth chart piece after the draft, the confidence that Browning has given them with his run last year. I think, that was a big part of what I mentioned earlier with those early games. It was like, we went through a whole camp where we didn't even know who was going to be the backup quarterback. And it was the debate of Browning versus Trevor Siemian, which in hindsight looks kind of silly given how Browning played. How much do you think that plays in for both Joe and for the team, that they go in with a different mindset because of Jake Browning and because of what he showed?
I think that's part of why his eyes got opened. For me, I don't know how you don't look back and say, thinking about the way he approached week 3 on Monday Night Football, and then watching what Jake was able to do when you handed over the reins, understand that other people can get this done. I don't have to carry the weight of the world on my back on one leg.
Yeah.
That makes it's okay to understand that I need to dial it back and see the big picture, and not, if I don't go out there, we won't win, and this season could be over. That's the risk reward. That was his justification for going out there and playing in week 3. Ironically, in the one game they won in the first 4, but it's still, it was such a risk. And so I think that watching Jake show that, hey man, we can cook with this thing. We can make it work for a week or 2. You got to trust other people around you, I think was a part of this evolution, is evolving for him as a pro, as he called it.
I was thinking about it. The Bengals might have the best backup quarterback situation. And by that, I don't mean necessarily the best quarterback, but when you think about what you're paying him, when you think about everybody kind of knowing their role, and when you think about now this kind of confidence factor and the resume that Browning has built up in the short time he got to play, start looking around the league and you can say, okay, well, Pittsburgh has two guys that are starting quarterbacks. Well, that's kind of a problem because they're both going to want to start. You look at these situations like Minnesota and you go, well, you got Sam Darnold behind JJ McCarthy. Well, the rookie's going to start. And now you got a weird situation where you brought a guy in. I just think outside of maybe Green Bay, the Sean Clifford, Jordan Love setup, I mean, it's a really nice situation they have. And it's kind of ironic given how much we talked about it leading into last season that was a problem. you hope Jake Browning can keep doing what he does if he's called upon, but it's a good situation they have.
It was a lost year, but that was one great thing to come of it, was confidence in what Jake Browning can do, and that allowing Burrow to maybe relax and not feel like he has to do so many crazy. The other thing is, you see Burrow up there next to Browning in practice the other day, and you're like, oh yeah, I forgot like how different they look and how Jake Browning was really just the scrappy backup trying to find a way to make this body work. Like they just look different. And even more so now, as Burrow mentioned, he's putting on weight. He's trying to be stronger. I don't know. I love that. I don't know if this is going to work, but I'm not going to not do this. I'm going to go out there and do the same thing over and over again. I'm not going to beat my head against a wall. I'm going to try to do things differently. I'm going to try to evolve and see if that works. Maybe I need to be bigger and stronger in certain ways in order to take more of the punishment of a season and not have these injuries derail me. That's all you can ask of anybody, man, is to look at what's happened, be brutally honest with yourself and how things have gone. Burrow doesn't have anything to prove when he's out there on the field anymore. I'd argue he can stop improving. All right. Yeah. I know he's addicted to getting better, but screw that. Just be out there, man. You're good enough. When he's out there, he's at a level. For me, the improvement for him is all going to be stuff like this. How can you stay available? And because that's the one cloud hovering over him now. And the fact that he is so openly and genuinely and honestly addressing it, I think is a huge deal. And we'll see. Maybe it does make a difference. And that doesn't mean he could go out there and get hurt in week 1. And that doesn't mean his process has been wrong. That just means he plays football. Well, and I think his attack to the process is what matters more than whatever ends up being the results here this season.
I agree. And any injury can be a freak injury too. So he's going to get that knock no matter what the injury is, no matter how unfair that is. If he gets hurt again and it's a knee or whatever, heaven help us if that happens. But if he's doing the right thing with this particular injury and he's handling it the right way, that is major progress in his career. And it's just a smart thing. And I think if you went back and you looked at all the great veteran quarterbacks over the years, they've taken care of their bodies that way and made the business decisions when they need to not rush things or do things the wrong way. It's heroic when you can pull it off, but it also puts you back at square one an awful lot of the time.
Yeah, being a hero is great until the villain shows up, right?
That's why I'm addicted to staying the same all the time. I don't want to get better. I don't want to get worse.
I'm addicted to getting by. All right, that's what I'm addicted to.
Addicted to straight up mediocrity. That's me, man.
Oh, I love that. And I will not stop tweeting when he's wearing a compression sleeve on any part of his body. I tried to make a joke of it. All right. Like people did not like that joke. I tweeted about the compression sleeve being on because look, we saw it twice last year that it was notable. That practice where he had his calf injury. And then I guess very notably coming off the bus the day before the game against Baltimore. I'm just saying, thanks to last year, I'm going to note it if he's wearing a compression sleeve on any part of his body. So make sure you keep an eye out for that. Not back on. But man, people did not like that. The natives were restless about that tweet a little bit. I got one. Somebody says, oh, are we going to report what kind of jock strap he's wearing when he drops his nuts on the league? And I'm like, whoa. This is unnecessary. We've gone too far with it. I don't need this. Like this is supposed to be a little joke. Like, but we cannot laugh about last year yet. I think is what the lesson that is learned there. So there will be no laughter.
Will we report that jock strap though? I mean,
no.
Okay.
I will. No.
I just want to make sure.
Never once in going on 2 decades as a reporter have I ever reported a jock strap anything.
That's good.
And I don't plan to start now. I feel like I'm going to go ahead and continue on my current path, my current streak. I'm going to be addicted to not reporting on jock straps.
Right.
That's
a good goal.
That's where I'm living right now.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of the Burrow thing. I wanted to make sure that we brought you, a lot of what he had to say. And a lot of times, it gets boring. You don't want to hear like a whole press conference here, but I felt like there was a lot of points of honesty and interesting reflection from him there that it's rather than us try to paraphrase it, far better for you guys to just hear exactly what Joe Burrow had to say.